Welcome back to Race Day Live. We've had lots of emails and tweets about staking plans, staking policy, bankroll. How do you sort of plan to how much you should lay out on a horse? And James Willoughby is going to explain more. Starting off with the fundamental rule about...
Let's start at the very beginning. The very beginning, chapter 1 of the very beginning of betting on anything is the money that you bet on horses, dogs, football, cannot have any utility in the rest of your life whatsoever. In other words, it can't have any real financial value in terms of buying things in wider society.
If you're dipping into the money you need for the rent, for the food...
But that's obviously an extreme example. But even if you think that going to the cinema, going down the pub, doing something else with the money is a more worthwhile leisure pursuit than betting, you cannot even start betting because your judgment of how much to bet, when to bet, will be affected emotionally to a crippling extent. So you need to separate out from the rest of your wherewithal a sum of money with which you are to speculate.
Okay.
That's the basic, that's the start. Then it gets complicated after that. What you are really looking to do if you're serious is to grow your stake while mitigating against the chance of the risk of ruin. So you want to speculate enough to make a profit, but not so much. So it depends on the price of the horse and the edge that you are getting, which you have to try and estimate. Now, to try and remove some of those complexities, let's play a game. Let's say that I am going to offer you, the viewer, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to have 2 to 1 about the spin of a coin with the World Bank. I'm not going to pay you. So you say to it, well, 2 to 1 is a tremendous price. I know it's only even money. I'm getting how much of this money separate from the rest of your wherewithal do you bet? Well, if it's a one-off opportunity, if nothing else matters to you, the answer is the lot. If I then say to you, you've got 10 such spins of the coin, but if you go bankrupt at any point, you can't have any more spins.
And you give me 2 to 1 each time?
Yes. You then obviously need to be a degree more conservative because you don't want to do all your money before the 10th spin of the coin. So you can think of betting on horses in a similar fashion if you're not going to dip into your real life money, that is. So you need to think to yourself, first of all, what type of edge do I have? Well, probably in horse racing it'll be quite a small one unless you're a genius. So we're talking about, on average, in the region of 5 to 10%. There are people, I know there'll be people screaming at the TV saying, I make 25%, it's a disgrace, whatever, or I'm an exchange trader and I make 2%, but it's over a massive sample. Those are exceptions. If you are kind of like how I imagine an average punter, sort of stay at home Saturday, likes to bet on the big races type thing, and you are going to take it seriously, you then need to work out what percentage of your bank to stake. Well, if you are, it's too complicated for me to get here to give you any golden rules about if you're backing even money chance. You need to look up, if you're serious, and you'll do this, or read books written on this, on the Kelly criterion, which is basically the ultimate way to do what I describe. And that tells you, really, it's a mathematical formula which describes how much you should bet according to what your estimated edge is. People can use half Kelly if they're risk averse, or even a quarter, or a tenth according to what their individual temperament is. But there is an optimal amount to stake. As an overarching principle, it pays to be more conservative than you think, to bet less than you feel you should bet.
Quite often I've heard punters say, you know, I'm confident, I've got my tails up now, I'm going to go in, and they'll increase their stake. They get a little bit sure of themselves, don't they? They back the first 3 winners at the race meeting, they go, right, race 4, I'm not going to have my £10, I'm winning 50 quid, I'm going to have 40 on the next race, I'm flying, I'm in form.
You should stick to a fixed percentage of your bankroll if you are betting at the same price with the same edge. It gets quite complicated mathematically. Generally speaking, as Hugh's already demonstrated, people underestimate the chances of a long losing run. So whatever you normally are comfortable with, or whatever you think fits into this bankroll, you should have less on than you think. You should try and have more bets at a smaller stake, generally speaking. Depends, of course, what you're betting on, but as a general principle, I can only talk generally.
Okay, Hugh, I know on the website you have the points. I think it's between 1 and 5, isn't it, the scale?
Yeah, this is...
I mean, usually you do go 1 point more often than not.
Yeah, I've kind of changed over as the years have gone past, because although the official 1 to 5 scale is the official at the races scale, it's very, very difficult for me, given how difficult it is to get on my selections in the first place at the advice price. It's very difficult to start saying, you know, have a 4-point selection on this 20 to 1 shot, because it's, you know, very few people can necessarily get 4 times their stake. And given that I do keep records of my selections, I think it would be a fair criticism to say that if you put in 5 points up on 50 to 1 shots, it's going to give an unrealistic depiction. So I've over the years I've cut down pretty much to 1 and 2 point selections. It's unfortunate, because you do want to try and give some kind of indication of the confidence that you hold, not so much the confidence you hold, but the differential between what you think the price is and what the price available is and what price you think it should be. But if you think a horse, then generally that's going to happen at the higher end of the market for my kind of selections. And as I say, saying have 5 points on a 25 to 1 selection is not really realistic. So it's kind of a balancing act like that.
You can't win, can you? If you do it the way you do it, people say, well, it's unrealistic, you can't get 5 points on a 50 to 1 shot. You do it the way Tom does for price-wise, people say to him, wait a minute, you know, you can't think you've got exactly the same edge on every single bet you send out. Why not, you know, tell us when one is a 20-point selection or whatever. So
you can't, exactly, you can't. There's just no two ways around it. And obviously I have to tip horses every day, and I try and I'll certainly, if there's a day where I just can't fancy anything, I'll try and make that clear in the opening sentence of the column, so that people realise that it's not one that I particularly fancy strongly. But you're caught between a rock and a hard place, really. So it's not ideal either way.
Not good.
Each way betting's interesting as well. I know that quite often, I mean, Gary on the website puts up horses each way. I think somebody actually had a go at him on Sunday when I was here, saying, "Oh, you put up a 4 to 1 or a 7 to 2 chance each way." But quite often, it depends, doesn't it, on the value of the place mark. If you think that horse at 3 to 1, fifth of the odds is still exactly, value to be placed at 3 to 5.
You just consider them 2 bets, don't you? 2 completely unrelated bets. One in the place market, one in the win market. If the one in the place market is good value as well as the one in the win market, back the horse each way. Otherwise, don't.
I don't put many each way bets up, simply because I did an assessment after my first year or second year, and I discovered that I would probably be better overall concentrating more on win-only bets. That's largely due to the fact that I put a lot of fairly speculative bets that I think I can see running really well and winning, or I can see running no sort of race. They're not ones that I think should be thereabouts. That tends to be the kind of bet that I put up, and it doesn't make much sense then, because I tend to think that the place chance doesn't represent value, whereas sometimes the win chance of some of those selections does.
Okay, keep your emails and tweets coming in.